Well, first of all, Senator Collins, thank you for raising that, and I'm delighted to be working with you on that. We do have concerns about a number of caregivers who've been told that they're no longer eligible this year. To me, it's the daughter of a World War II veteran whose mother stayed home to care for him when he was in a wheelchair. This is absolutely critical, and it should go to all eras. So thank you for working, and we've got a lot of work to do with the VA on this. We'll continue to do it. Secretary Shulkin, let me go back to a discussion we've had here and that you and I talked about last week, and that is the choice program shortfall. As a result of the problems in the choice program, VA is no longer going to have $626 million in carryover as expected for FY18. And according to a VA briefing, to cover that shortfall of $260 million, the VA is asking our hospitals to delay important equipment purchases and facility maintenance projects. And your budget documents actually show you've already transferred $600 million from medical services to community care, correct?
Those are our collections, which come into our medical services, and then we transfer into community care.
So that's another change in the budget for those needs. If that's not enough, VA would then take from medical services and medical collections, taking away from expected carryover in those budgets. So
Yes.
that'll be something you have to carry over.
Yes.
But my question is, your budget submission for next year is based on those hundreds of millions of dollars of carryover being available. So exactly how much money will VA need above what is in the choice and community care accounts?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you've done a good job on understanding those numbers. I think you have it correct. But to make sure that I'm going to add up all your numbers correctly, Mark, what our chief financial officer probably is going to do better at this. What's the total? I think the question is, what's the total amount of carryover dollars that we had expected that we may end up using? Yeah.
Yeah, we had in the budget $1.652 billion in medical services carryover from FY17 into FY18. Right now, we believe we can resolve the problem with the choice shortfall in FY17 without.
No, my question is, you're not going to have the carryover money for 18 that you were expected. So what is now the shortfall for 18 from your budget request that's before this committee today?
Yes, ma'am, but we believe we have other offsets internally in 17 that will.
Somebody else is going to lose out.
I'm sorry?
Somebody else will lose out. We're going to take money from somebody to make up this.
Well, we've taken money from the National Reserve, about $104 million, and we've taken $220 million that's been offered up by our VISN directors as being available for this. It's more important than what they had it set aside for.
Well, my understanding is it's about $4 billion or a little bit more than that you will need in the choice and community care account.
For 18.
For 18, about $4 billion. So, Mr. Secretary, my question for you is, why have you not submitted a request for additional appropriations for this year?
Well, because I think that we will be able to cover this year, as Mark was saying, that we have identified the $260 million in unobligated spending from our asking our VISNs what they're not going to be spending. We've taken the $104 million from our National Reserve, and we will be able to cover this year rather than make an emergency supplemental request for this year.
But you've created a huge hole for next year
We have.
because you've taken away the carryover that you were expecting and put into the carryover or into your budget request for this
At
year,
least by $626 million.
if
Yes.
not more.
What's that? In choice, yes.
In choice.
Yes, yes. Yes.
So this year's budget request is not enough.
It is.
Seems to me the right thing would be
yeah.
to do is to ask for a request for this year for the shortfall.
One of the options to resolve this problem would be to have the authorizers, of which you are one, consider that as a option for doing it now for 17,
Have
18.
you requested that?
We are in discussions with you about how you would prefer to do this. I think that is one of the options, and the other option, as you're saying, is that we could fix this through transfers, but there are consequences to that. So each of the options have advantages and disadvantages, and I believe that this needs to be a dialogue about where we want to go with this. But we want to see this fixed. I know you do too, and we should come to the best conclusion as to the way to fix this.
It seems to me if the administration makes the request, it will be better served.
Okay.
Secretary Shulkin, I'm very concerned about your budget for medical services. You're requesting barely a 1% increase, and that doesn't cover the basic medical inflation and increasing use of health care by veterans. It doesn't replenish the $600 million VA transferred to community care, and it doesn't count for delays in equipment purchases and maintenance projects. So how do you meet the veterans' needs for health care?
Yeah. Senator Murray, I have different numbers than you have. I have a much larger increase in medical services. Mark, would you please?
For your budget request?
Yes.
For 18?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. What you're looking at is only the appropriation amount. We have 5 sources of funds. We have the appropriation, which obviously is the largest, but we also have the funds from the choice law, both for the choice program and for the Section 801 VACA funds that are applicable to medical services. We have medical care collections, we have reimbursements, and we have carryover. So when you look at the total obligations that we've got in the budget from 17 to 18, our medical services account grows by 5.7%, and our community care account grows by 8.3%.
Okay, well, what I'm hearing you say is in all those accounts that you now are expecting a carryover from that you won't have, you're counting those in to this.
Right now, the only one we don't expect to have it in is
626.
in choice, which would reduce the amount of growth for community care. It would not impact.
But you're taking money from those other accounts for choice.
In the current year, 17,
Not in 18.
not in 18.
Okay, well, that's all choice, which is private sector. Inside VA, it's 1.2, correct?
No,
No, ma'am.
Mark, let me just try it because he helped me with this. That's only, if you're looking only at the appropriation amount, it would be the amount you're talking about. But when he adds in his other 5 sources, it's 5.7%
Okay.
inside VA for medical services.
Okay. Well, I'll just conclude. You said you will defend this budget. Your
Yes.
job is to defend veterans, and they're
Yes.
the ones that this committee cares about.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you.